Sega, who's brought by Shinobi on the 3DS. Now, you guys are reviving the classic franchise after many, many requests. So, what's special about this one?
Well, I think a lot of the things that we wanted to do with this game is not necessarily follow up specifically the PS2 version of Shinobi. We like a lot of the classic feel of the old Genesis and arcade days, and we thought, well, it'd be great to be able to bring back that feeling, that classic gameplay, sort of the 2D side-scrolling aspects, but modernize it. So, working on the combat system so it's not all just one-hit kills, revamping the spell system, and adding a whole sort of incentive system to reward people for getting better and becoming that sort of that master ninja sort of stuff.
So you're talking specifically about gameplay right now, but there's a story in Shinobi, probably I think more story than most ninja games. So talk to us about where this fits in for everybody at home that's got their Shinobi, timeline.
Sure. So actually, it's a little bit agnostic. We have characters that are involved with previous characters in the Shinobi franchise, such as Joe, right? Joe is such a classic sort of character. You don't play as Joe, you actually play as Jiro, his dad. So we are sort of bookending sort of where did Joe come from and who his dad was and where that all began. So we're actually building on the lore.
So Joe's not even around yet? He's kind of...
Joe might be around, but the main character that you play is definitely Jiro, and it was great because we wanted to sort of put our stamp, our mark on the Shinobi lore, and while Joe has sort of always come back in some form or another and always hangs around, he's a great, great character, we wanted to add a little bit more complexity and depth to the whole Shinobi franchise as a whole.
All right, now when you're talking about who's developing this game?
So it's being done by Tonight. And they are such passionate guys. I mean, they've done a lot of the classic side-scrolling games that you've seen in the past on the DS that are great. And we love that about them. But we also love the fact that Japan was really behind this. Shinobi has been pretty much a Japanese franchise for a long time. They've been very protective of it. So the ability for us to sort of borrow it from them and give it to a North American developer was really good. And it was very exciting. And Japan really got behind it. We're working closely with those guys. They see all the builds. And I think across the board, they're really amped and super excited about it.
All right, well, let's dive in and check it out. What we've got here is it's an instructional screen that's telling us the important parts.
Exactly, and we can actually skip by this. This is just your initial tutorial kind of scroll. You're being passed by your teacher, your sensei, if you were, and just kind of teaches you the basic fundamentals of the game. So we can just jump in right now.
Matching scarves.
Matching scarves, that's such an iconic thing for Shinobi. We had to bring that back, and I think you'll see a lot of that in this game. There's not one particular game we really based this off of, but you see a lot of elements from a bunch of different classic Shinobi titles that we brought together.
So there seems to be something bad happening right now.
Exactly. So we don't really talk about there's an invasion of this village, Jiro's village, and you're wondering what's going on. We have evading ninjas who are taking on sort of his friends and family and stuff, and he's defending it. So he's kind of going through, the village is being pretty much destroyed, and we use this as the fundamentals for the tutorial to the player.
Now, I get the invading ninjas, but there seem to be these explosive beams of light.
Exactly, and we're not talking about that.
All right.
But it makes sense in the greater scheme of things. It's a little bit peculiar now. We want people to kind of say, like, what is that? This doesn't really make sense. This is kind of an old school Japanese village. Why are there giant beams coming from space?
Probably because there's a flying saucer. I'm just guessing.
Maybe. We'll see. But I think the main things that you see here is the evolution of the combat system. You can juggle now. You can build up combos and score with this system. It's not one-hit kills like the old Shinobi titles. And we're also evolving the whole parry system. So using the right shoulder button, you can parry any sort of attack coming your way, physical or ranged, and just sort of parry it out of the way. And that's the whole crux of it. There's no block. So you need to get really good at the parry. And along with your sort of katana attacks, you have the kunai, which are the throwing knives, which you can use for your ranged attacks. And then you also sort of have a grappling hook, which you can use to grab onto ropes and other high objects, but also enemies that are jumping over you.
Nicely done. And basically, his moveset is what we're familiar with.
It is a lot. I mean, it pulls a lot. If you actually go through and you look at the old Shinobi titles, you'll see a move from here and a move from there, and sort of some twists on some of the established moves that you've seen before. So we actually pulled some of the best elements of the first few Shinobis and kind of built upon that as a solid foundation. And then sort of added systems like our multiplier system, which you see in the top right corner. As you go through and not get hit and continue to defeat enemies, you'll build up your multiplier, which increases your speed, your jumping ability, and your attack strength. And this keeps going up, continuing as long as you don't get hit. And that's the incentive for the player to kind of go through and stylistically kill all these enemies. But once you get hit, you get knocked out of it and you have to start over again.
And just to be clear for folks at home, while this is a 3DS title, yes, we're playing it in 2D.
That's correct.
And we've adjusted the resolution to where the top screen is what you're seeing most prominently. But I don't want to give short shrift to the bottom screen because there is some important stuff down there.
Exactly. So we have the bottom. We have 4 magic spells. So we brought that back from the classic Shinobis. These are redone magic spells that are really useful in a variety of situations. But we don't want the player to use them a lot. We actually use them. Well, actually, we ask the player to use them only in dire emergencies or when you have to really utilize them because it impacts your score. This whole game is about score, and there's achievements attached to it. So you can kind of see right here. His score is counting up, and it'll grade you at the end of the level. So you can get your classic S rank, your A rank, and so forth. And if you use the magic spells, you'll actually lose points because of that.
And horses, a Shinobi staple.
Exactly. We wanted to not just do the left to right or right to left sort of experience. We wanted to have a lot more in your face, kind of going into the screen experiences to sell the 3D as well. And one of the classic things that come from Shinobi is, of course, horse riding. So here's a very simple, we call them action sets, just kind of avoiding obstacles and attacking the ninja as they come off the side of the screens.
Now, how many of these are going to pop up in the game?
We've got about 4 or so of them, ranging from the horse riding to the classic sort of surfing stuff and everything in between. So I think it's a nice break from the traditional gameplay that you have for the remainder of the game.
Now, can we expect your traditional Shinobi structure, which is fight your way to the end of a level, kill some kind of boss that's not very cool to us, and then move on?
We have that sort of similar structure, but we also have sometimes mini bosses in between, the classic thing. But we also have a lot of variety just in the environments and the single levels themselves. Like for example, this level goes from sort of a rustic monochromatic village and ends up in these snowy mountains, and that's just sort of the first level. So you get a variety on a level per level basis. So hopefully by the time you get to even the end of level 1, it feels like you've gotten quite far in this sort of journey. And then we got like 8 or 9 more levels after that, plus bonus levels. So there's a lot to this game. We have basically over 60 achievements to unlock that are going to require multiple playthroughs, and each achievement actually physically unlocks something in the game, whether it's a playable character, skins, behind the scenes stuff, and artwork, things like that. So he's kind of going through here and just performing some of his stuff. We can show you an example of a magic spell here too that you can execute, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. So camera pulls in. This is sort of the lightning spell, sort of defensive. And again, it's sort of a last-ditch usage if you need to get through navigational hazards or to get through a particular part that's difficult. But we don't really want you relying it. You can only use it on one level section at a time unless you find a scroll hidden that lets you use it again.
And I did see a box of old-fashioned dynamite.
Yes, you gotta love dynamite. That's right. You don't always want to. There's not always a reward out of crates, right? Sometimes there's dynamite just sitting there too. So you gotta be careful.
As in life.
Exactly. And also, while the game is very fast-paced and very frenetic, we also have moments that we have guys who are stealth kills, basically. They're not real. They're looking the other way. And if you are careful and you pay attention, you can kill them in a contextual way and get a lot more points. But if you just kill them and not pay attention your normal katana way, then you actually get less points.
And you pretty much start the game out with all the tools you're going to have, right? There's
exactly.
no finding stuff.
No, exactly. We wanted to. The crux of this is really just becoming the Master Ninja, getting really good with the skills that you have. So from the get-go, we give you all your abilities, and while they get enhanced throughout the game, depending on how well you're playing, for the most part, all the moves and all your sort of actions and things like that are available right from the get-go.
All right. Now, there are some nods to the classic game that we talked about. I think when I saw this a little bit earlier, mini games.
Exactly. So we have sort of homages to both the classic Sega games and the Shinobi franchises. So the classic Shuriken Toss game that has been in Shinobi 1 appears, and you can unlock it by finding special tokens hidden throughout the levels, and those can add to your score at the end as well.
And you guys, I had a chance to kind of check it out. You guys are going touchscreen with it.
Yes.
So what other kind of things that you maybe want to hint at, if not tell us outright, because kids want to know.
Exactly. I mean, I think the big thing for us is really incentivizing people to play the levels over and over again. Each of these levels feels very, very distinctly different. We go to a large variety of places, a lot of places that most people would not expect actually for a Shinobi game, so that's kind of exciting. But just kind of going through, seeing classic homages to even the Sega stuff, like we have a level called Afterburn where you're flying on top of the Afterburner jets. So a lot of just rewards for fans as well. But in the end, we really just wanted to create this awesome ninja game that just action fans in general would love to play.
All right, and I guess the new standard question for 3DS games, do you guys have any kind of Streetpass action, I don't know, ninja sharing or something?
We do have Streetpass. We're not talking about it yet, but the big thing that I wanted to do about Streetpass is really reward the player with something physical in the game for when they did it. We have a lot of sort of Streetpass examples where you're just kind of doing a battle or you're collecting trophies or something simple like that. I wanted to incentivize people to actually physically go out and find other Shinobi players. And when you do that, certain levels and other things will unlock in the game and that you'll want to get.
All right, sounds pretty cool. Last most important question, when's the game coming out?
Shinobi comes out on 3DS at the end of September.
All right, well, thank you very much, Steven.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. That is your first look at Shinobi for the 3DS in action, live here. Be sure and check back on the site for more, but until then, let's go back to our E3 stage.